Whoa, Defuk is with that guy, creepy. Naruto said with a shiver as he took a look at the severed human hands all over Shigaraki's body. Moreover, he could sense a very dangerous smell coming off from him. Before Shigaraki's hands could touch him, a front kick slipped through his arms and nailed him right in the face. Naruto's leg was longer than Shigaraki's arms. The silver-haired young man was sent flying through the air, the severed hand covering his face being flung off together with a mouthful of spit and blood. I noticed in the earlier fights too. Oi, are you trying to kill someone? Hold back some of that stupidly high strength, or you'll really kill someone at this rate. Aizawa yelled at him from the side when he saw the way Naruto had nearly killed his opponent with one kick. But Naruto did not reply to him. The silver-haired man stood up from the ground as if he had not just been kicked in the face with the strength of a 2-ton heavy hit. Naruto had kicked him in the face with his full power on purpose, yet he was still not down for the count. With the severed hand flung off his face, Shigaraki started to panic and shriek as he covered his face with his own 2 hands. "Namu! Kill them all!" he screamed. Uzumaki. "Dodge!" Aizawa yelled and used his quirk to erase the purple monstrosity's ability. However, it was not enough. Even with Naruto's superhuman reflexes and physical attributes, the muscular creature appeared as little more than a blur. Shockwave exploded forth as Namu's massive punch slammed into the fox boy's chest. An entire man-made hillside was smashed into smithereens when the boy's body crashed into it, burying him underneath. "Uzumaki!" Aizawa yelled in panic and broke into a run towards the place of the crash. But only a second after turning around, a massive hand grabbed him from the back of his neck and face slammed him into the ground. How? Was the only thing he could think of at that moment. He had erased that creature's quirk, he was sure of it. Moreover, its quirks would remain unusable for as long as he did not blink. Eraserhead did not need to keep looking at him for that. How is it so strong? How is it so fast? After taking the severed hand from the place where it had been flung off and covering his face with it once again, Shigaraki regained his composure. He was even relaxed enough to let out a bout of hyena-like laughter. You're probably wondering how is he so strong when you erased his quirk, aren't you? Shigaraki spoke gloatingly. I will tell you, Eraserhead. He's the anti-symbol of peace, the bioengineered Namu. He was created to be as strong and as fast as All Might. In front of overwhelming power as his, you might as well be quirkless. As if to further confirm his words, Namu grabbed Aizawa's left arm and snapped it in half like a twig. The creature was about to grab his right arm as well when, unexpectedly, a powerful hit smashed into its brain and flung its over 200 kg heavy body back as if it had been hit by a truck. I almost died, you fucking bastard. Naruto rasped as blood flowed from a cut to his temple and from the corner of his mouth.
The top of his hero costume was torn to shreds, his Anbu fox-like mask had been smashed to bits as well, and a large blackened bruise could be seen on his chest. If it had not been for his innate fox-like flexibility and agility, that punch from Nomu would have killed him on the spot.
But there was one more thing that was different at the boy, something that even the half-unconscious Aizawa took notice of. Next to his bushy golden fox tail, there was one more. Another tail. Pushed to the brink of death, with one leg in the grave, his body had broken past its limits and his fox quirk awakened. He appeared to have transformed into a ghost as he blurred out from sight, leaving after images behind him. A strong kick into the chin sent the huge creature flying, and a shockwave burst from the impact, lifting clouds of dust into the air.
I'm not done yet, Naruto screamed and, just like Rock Lee from his previous life, with movements that defied the laws of gravity, he jumped after the still floating in midair Nomu and smashed his feet into its gut repeatedly, 4 times in a row. Faster than the spectators' eyes could follow, 6 shurikens with strings attached to them were thrown at the creature, tying it up completely. Then, swinging his 2 tails to give himself momentum while in midair, he grabbed onto the tied-up creature and plunged with it head first towards the ground.
A loud crash reverberated across the entire training facility, and a deep crater appeared in the ground, with the muscular purple-skinned creature lying at the bottom of it. In his past life, Naruto had not been able to pull off such a move. However, with the specs of his two-tailed Fox Quirk, his body had just reached the requirements for it. His strength and agility, not any weaker than that of Rock Lee after opening the first out of the 8th inner gates. However, as if to reenact the fight between Rock Lee and Gaara's absolute defense from the memories of his previous life, Namu stood up from the ground. It took Namu a much longer time to regenerate this time around. But by the time its healing stopped, the creature appeared to be virtually unharmed. "Oi, oi," Naruto muttered in disbelief, while trying to get his breathing under control. "Not even a scratch. Seriously." "It's no use! It's no use!" Shigaraki laughed maniacally. "His shock absorption is far beyond anything any of you could deal with. Namu is the ultimate counter to physical damage. He was made to be as strong as All Might. You're better off gouging his flesh out, if he lets you do that at all." As Shigaraki said that, Namu let out a bestial scream and launched itself at Naruto. "Stupid jackass. Thanks for telling me how to kill it." Naruto thought and evaded one of Namu's punches as if he was the Matrix. Before the awakening of his Fox Quirk, his bursts of speed for short distances had already been greater than those of Tenya to Ida. But after gaining his second tail, his agility was on a completely different level. Even so, as a being that was created to counter the number one hero, Namu was not just as strong and durable as All Might, but its speed was incredible as well. It was only Naruto's martial experience and his animal-like instincts for sensing danger that allowed him to barely weave through the wind-stirring punches of the creature. "This isn't good. If it hits me one time, I'm done. I can't keep on like this." He threw 2 smoke grenades on the ground, and a super dense curtain of dark gray smoke burst out, cloaking the entire area into darkness. Sounds of sharp objects splitting the air were heard in the next moment, followed by sounds of metal colliding against hard surfaces. But after a while of dumbly looking around for its enemies, Namu roared and suddenly clapped its hands. The shockwave generated by that hand clap blew away all the smoke as if it had never existed in the first place. Regardless, Naruto had already accomplished his objective. The entire area was now filled with metallic wires tied from the loops of kunai that had been stabbed into the ground, surrounding hills, walls of ruined buildings, and even into the extremely tall ceiling of the dome-shaped training facility. It looked as if Namu had been surrounded by a spiderweb or metallic wires. With agility and dexterity far beyond anything a regular human would be capable of, Naruto stood with his feet on one of the extremely thin wires above Namu. The wire tensed when he suddenly crouched and launched himself at the creature below like an arrow shot from a bow. A scream came out from Namu as Naruto flashed past him and opened a large gash into its neck, its blood bursting out like out of a showerhead. Although his homeroom teacher had suggested him to give up on his kunai, Naruto had never had any intentions of handicapping himself against his enemies. He would hold back when the situation allowed it because he would rather avoid unnecessary killing. But when shit hit the fan, he would not hold back from using his full strength and all the means available to him in order to win. That horrible cut to the throat that would have killed anyone else took Namu only a few seconds to heal. In a few moments, the creature was back to its pristine state, as if it had never been wounded in the first place. Even so, Naruto was not done. Just as he landed on another wire, he once again used himself as an arrow against a bowstring, and launched himself at Namu once more. For the next 2 minutes and a half, making use of his numerous wires, Naruto slashed and stabbed the creature with his blades over 200 times, its putrid blood covering him from head to toes and transforming the entire area into a pool of blood. Bouncing like a pinball from one wire to another, Naruto had become so incredibly fast and unpredictable that Namu's underdeveloped mental faculties could not find a way to stop him or counter him. Watching his supposedly ultimate weapon getting massacred like that, Shigaraki screamed. "What are you doing, Namu? Destroy everything! Smash everything to dust!" Reacting to its master's orders, Namu let out a savage shriek and, raising its arms above its head, it smashed its fists against the ground with its entire strength. A terrible explosion followed and an immense crater appeared in the ground. The shock wave it generated, snapping all of Naruto's metallic wires like paper before flinging him into one of the ruined buildings nearby. This time around, the fox boy could not get up anymore. He's too strong. He's too durable. His regeneration is beyond belief. If it had been him from his past life, one simple Udama Rasengan would have ground that monster to shreds. I miss having chakra. I miss my sage mode. In my sage mode, I could smash this guy into a bloody paste with one punch.
For the first time since he was born into this world, Naruto felt acutely the limits of his Fox Quirk. Although he had awakened his quirk and gotten a second tail, and despite that his strength and agility had skyrocketed compared to before, it was still not enough. Even his ingenious tactics and his mastery over his weaponry proved to be fruitless. In front of Nomu's overwhelming power, healing factor and defense, all his efforts fell short.
Sensing the monster slowly getting closer to him, he clenched his teeth in frustration and anger. Do I really have no other choice than to use it? Even as Namu's enormous hand grabbed him from his head, and he started screaming from the pain of having his skull squeezed by the creature's vice-like grip, he still hesitated to use his adamantine sealing chains. I won't use them. I won't put my mother in danger.
He was not blind to the situation. He knew that, at that rate, he was going to get killed. But he could not bear the thought of potentially causing his parents' death by exposing his secret quirk. To him, Kushina and Minato, his mom and dad, were the most important people in the world. For him, the importance of their safety was far beyond that of his own life. But even as Nomu was attempting to crush his skull like a watermelon, Naruto did not give up on resisting. Amidst his screams of pain and agony, his nails transformed into fierce-looking claws and he started to stab and shred at the muscular arm holding him with reckless abandon.
In that life and death moment, his survival instincts kicked in and his body no longer held back any of its strength. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, his claws viciously stabbed into Namu's forearm and directly severed his arm in half. Naruto's normal, human-like blue eyes transformed into the red and slit eyes of a fox, and a third tail burst from his lower back, through the already tattered fabric of his top. An animalistic growl came from his throat as he threw himself at the nightmarish creature in front of him. It was the hysterical assault of a cornered beast. As previously stated, all heroes needed to belong to a hero agency in order to receive missions from the Hero Public Safety Commission, HPSC. Usually HPSC or the police department would contact the hero agencies directly for any missions. That was how HPSC prevented hero agencies from having conflicts over intruding on others' turf, and how they remained organized. It was an unwritten law that unless it was an emergency situation, heroes would not regularly act in different cities and regions where their hero agencies did not have jurisdiction. However, there were exceptions to those rules too. For example, rarely would anyone dare to tell the number one hero off for working on their turf. Another exception also happened to be Mirko, the rabbit hero. Although her residence was in Hiroshima Prefecture, Mirko was a solitary hero, part of a one-woman hero agency. She had no sidekicks, no teammates, not even a secretary. Naturally, she did not have a proper headquarters either. This vagabond-like hero could be found operating over the entirety of Japan. Wild, rambunctious, and always looking for a fistfight, Mirko had become rather notorious among heroes and villains alike for her belligerent attitude and her free spirit. She never stayed in one place for too long, always rushing towards the place where she smelled an exciting fight. For solo heroes like Mirko and Eraserhead, but also for a better and faster way of mobilizing heroes from multiple agencies in case of natural disasters and other particularly grave emergencies, the HPSC had created a special portal, the Hero Network. It was also the fastest way for pro heroes to ask for assistance from other heroes. Mirko was just in the middle of eating a late breakfast when her smartphone vibrated with a notification. Momentarily putting down the carrot she had been munching on, she unlocked her phone and tapped on the notification. Unsurprisingly, it was from the Hero Network app.
Urgent. Numerous members of the League of Villains attacked USJ in Shizuoka Prefecture. UA high school students in mortal peril. Requesting immediate assistance from all pro heroes close by. Her eyes widened in surprise for a moment, but then, she grinned in excitement. Without even changing from her pajamas into her hero costume, the rabbit girl jumped through the window of her hotel like a hurricane and threw herself into a mad sprint toward the address indicated on the GPS. She was a few tens of kilometers away from the address. Thinking of how far away she was, she increased her running speed even more, stirring powerful gales of wind in her wake like a racing car. She dearly hoped that the villains weren't all finished by the time she got there. Her legs were itching to give some people a good beating.
Enjoy. Chapter 10. Mirko, the Rabbit Hero. His survival instincts kicked in that life and death moment, and his body no longer held back any of its strength. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, his claws stabbed into Namu's forearm, directly severing his arm in half. Naruto's normal, human-like blue eyes transformed into the red and slit eyes of a fox, and a third tail burst from his lower back through the already tattered fabric of his top. An animalistic growl came from his throat as he threw himself at the nightmarish creature in front of him. It was the hysterical assault of a cornered beast. Obscene amounts of blood splattered everywhere as whole chunks of flesh and muscle were gouged out and ripped off by his deadly claws. It was as if he had become a beast, too. Guided by his killing instincts, Naruto stabbed his clawed right hand straight into Namu's chest, piercing its heart and even ripping through its spinal cord, piercing out through the back. That vicious attack would have killed any other being, except for Namu. The creature's chest muscles suddenly contracted, and Naruto's arm was trapped within its body. Although he was not fully conscious, instinctually, sensing his impending doom, he started stabbing the creature with his other hand desperately. But it was too late to salvage the situation. When the bioengineered creature grabbed him by his immobilized arm, even through his hysteria-induced haze, Naruto understood at that moment. It was game over for him. With a savage roar, Namu pulled out Naruto's arm from its chest, and then, holding him by the forearm, the creature smashed him brutally into the ground. Again. And again. And again. Even with the increased durability of his second awakening, by the time Namu finally let go of him, the blonde felt as though every single bone in his body had been broken. His muscles weren't listening to him. It was as if he had been paralyzed. He could only slightly move his head and look up at the creature that was slowly walking towards him with heavy steps.
Before going berserk, Naruto had put Nomu on the back foot in their fight only because of his exceptional martial arts prowess and mastery of weapons. In particular, the ingenious way in which he had used his metallic wires and kunai like a spiderweb to bounce around unpredictably, like a pinball, had allowed him to even almost kill the creature.
However, letting himself be led by his feral instincts had been his downfall. Even with his second awakening, between the two of them, Namu was still physically superior and far more durable. Namu had been created specifically to counter All Might, the #1 hero. Taking Naruto's martial arts, weapons skills and fight IQ out of the equation had reduced him to a frenzied beast, not much different than Namu, a mindless beast. In a battle between two mindless beasts, when no skill and technique were involved, it was only natural for the stronger and more durable beast to win. In this case, Namu. As adrenaline left his system and agonizing pain flooded his senses, Naruto regained his lucidity. Awakening one's quirk was already an extremely rare occurrence. Awakening twice and in quick succession, no less, that was unheard of. It was a miracle. But even miracles had their limits. His body's reserves of energy and stamina had been completely depleted. A third awakening was impossible. Naruto was innately aware of that. He was no longer a Jinchuriki like in his past life when he could pull a win out of his ass by letting the demon inside him fight for him either. There was nothing else that he could do anymore. Mom? Dad? As his eyesight started to get blurry, his mind went to his family. I wish I could see them one more time. In his past life, he had been an orphan. For the majority of his admittedly short life, most people hated and shunned him. He had not known the warmth of a mother's hug, the bliss that came with being loved, the joy of having a loving and caring father, or the happiness of belonging to a family. In his current life, he had not appreciated his blessings, not until he had regained the memories. But after his eyes were opened, he had done everything in his power to show his mother and father how much he loved them. Nonetheless, only 1 year had passed since his memories had been awakened. I wish I had had more time with them. 1 year was far from enough. I don't want to die. The thought of never seeing his parents again made him tear up. But even in that tragic moment, Naruto did not think twice about using his chains. He would rather die than cause his parents to become fugitives, or to be killed. Finally arriving at his prone form, Namu grabbed him by the collar of his ruined shirt and lifted him up. One of his arms and more than half of his ribs were broken, and he was in so much pain that he could not even stand on his feet. But he could still move his head. With the last of his strength, Naruto sank his fox-like fangs into Namu's fingers. The creature shrieked as the boy's strong jaws tore half of its hand apart, forcing it to drop him to the ground. Until the very last moment, Naruto refused to give up. Until he drew his last breath, he would struggle. His entire body was broken, battered, bruised, and he was covered in blood from head to toes. He looked miserable, at death's door. Even so, he would fight to survive with everything he had, like a cockroach. When she smashed open the large doors of the immense training facility, Mirko had not known what to expect. But she had definitely not expected to see over 24 villains lying on the ground, unconscious, or moaning in pain from their injuries. Her attention quickly shifted towards the only standing people she could see. A silver-haired young man with severed human hands grabbing onto his body, and a huge and muscular purple-skinned humanoid that was soaked with blood. I won't make it in time, she thought urgently when she saw the huge creature grabbing a boy from the ground and lifting him up in the air.
The boy was also covered in blood from head to toes, and a bone was sticking out of his right arm. He appeared unresponsive, almost as if he was dead. But, suddenly, the creature let out a shriek as the seemingly dead boy sank his teeth into its hand, crushing and ripping apart the fingers clenched around his shirt.
Mirko's eye widened when she saw the way the creature regenerated its torn fingers out of nothing. It only took Namu 2 seconds to regrow its fingers. But those 2 seconds of delay were all that she needed to close in the distance and come to the boy's rescue. Aha! Shigaraki screamed in irritation. Pro heroes are already here, and one of the top 10 too. Ah, this pisses me off. Where is All Might? He was supposed to be here. After all the preparations we've made.
Scratching his neck with his nails until he almost got bloodied, Shigaraki let out another deranged scream. But then, his mood abruptly changed, becoming calm. It's over for us. If one hero has arrived, more are bound to arrive soon. We can't win against a dozen pro heroes. Oh well, it doesn't matter anymore. We'll get another chance. Kurogiri, let's leave.
A vortex of dark purple light appeared next to him as the villain in question manifested at his side. Wait, before we leave, Namu, kill that boy. We couldn't get All Might today, but it wasn't all for naught. A boy like him. We ought to eliminate him before it's too late. Shigaraki couldn't finish his words before someone's shin smashed into his face. A human-shaped indentation appeared into the outer wall of the training facility as Mirko's kick sent Shigaraki flying for over 12 meters until he crashed painfully into the wall. Shigaraki Tamura! Kurogiri yelled in panic as he teleported himself to the location where Shigaraki had been blasted off. You've got some guts talking about killing people while I am here, she said.
But she could not pursue the two of them because the hulking monstrosity rushed at the prone form of the boy on the ground, faithfully following its master's orders to finish him off. Nomu cocked back its fist, about to smash the boy into a bloody paste when Mirko's kick landed on the side of its face, from the back, and made it stumble.
The rabbit hero narrowed her eyes when she saw that Nomu was largely unaffected by her kick. The strength of her legs was great enough to easily shatter even reinforced concrete. Fast! She thought, startled when Nomu changed its target and suddenly lunged at her. She successfully dodged the beast's wild swing by ducking down, but its punch had been carrying so much power that the wind pressure accompanying it had still taken Mirko off her feet and flung her into the distance.
The rabbit hero was still in midair when Nomu appeared above her, and bringing its two fists together, it smashed them down into its enemy like a hammer. Blood and spittle burst from Mirko's mouth as Nomu's hammer fist smashed into her stomach, and a deafening explosion boomed as her body crashed painfully into the ground, smashing the concrete floor into a crater.
Such power! The dark-skinned woman let out a groan and threw up another mouthful of blood as she crawled out of the crater and tried to stand up on her feet. Thanks to her quirk, she could tolerate the insane amount of pain, but that didn't change the fact that her body was in a terrible condition.
It was just one hit.
She threw up blood again. None of her bones had been broken, but the impact had caused her grievous internal damage. The sleeve of her sweatshirt became stained with red as she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "I'm not done yet," she said and laughed. "I'm only getting warmed up," she yelled. The strong muscles of her thighs bulged, and the ground beneath her feet cracked as she threw herself at Namu. The creature met her charge with a shriek and punched explosively, the wind pressure carried by its punch raising clouds of dust and debris in the air. But when Namu's fist crashed against Rumi's body, it lost its equilibrium and stumbled. Its punch went right through her body. Or, better said, what Namu had hit was an afterimage. "Luna Ring," she yelled as her roundhouse kick smashed into Namu's head and actually lifted the creature off its feet, sending it tumbling through the air like a rag doll. Mirko did not even wait for Namu to crash into the ground before she launched herself at it once more. "Luna Spear," she yelled, and the creature had yet to land when her foot smashed into its spine, sending it flying once more. As Namu was kicked upwards, with a mighty jump, the rabbit hero appeared above the creature, and lifting her foot above her head, she yelled as she smashed her heel into Namu's brain like an axe. "Luna Art." Namu's body made another massive crater into the ground from the vicious axe kick that had smashed it down. The crater became even deeper, and a powerful shockwave blasted outwards when Mirko let herself fall from the air and planted both of her feet into the Namu's head, just as it was about to get up. It was one of her most powerful finishing moves, Luna Fall. By now, the floor of the training facility looked as if it had been carpet-bombed from above. That's how devastated it was. Bastard. The rabbit girl involuntarily let out a crouse when she saw Namu walking out of the crater. She could not believe that the creature was still standing. That succession of kicks was one of her most powerful combos, one that she rarely ever got to use on villains. It was so strong that it would have killed anyone else. She had given her all. What Rumi did not know, however, was that Namu was, in fact, greatly weakened. Naruto had gouged out and slashed at his flesh more than 200 times using his kunai and metallic wires, and he had even obliterated the creature's heart after his second awakening had made him go berserk. Namu had lost so much blood that the ground all around was painted red. The creature had regenerated so many times from its deadly wounds that it had run out of stamina. If Namu had been at its 100%, Mirko would have had an even more terrible time against it. "Rabbit-san," she heard a weak and raspy voice calling to her. Turning her head towards the voice, Mirko was surprised to see that the one who was calling her was the same fox boy that had torn apart Namu's hand by biting on it. He has a shock absorption quirk," Naruto spoke with difficulty. His lungs must have been injured by his broken ribs because he was gasping for air as if he was suffocating. "There is one kunai in my pouch, left thigh. Take it. Cut him down. Kill." He coughed and gasped loudly. "Kill the bastard," he said with the last of his strength. Finally, devoid of all energy, he lost consciousness. Due to the large amount of trauma it had suffered, and because of how much stamina it had lost, Namu took a longer time to regenerate its wounds this time around. Mirko had used her entire strength when she had axe kicked it in the brain. That heel kick to the brain had almost finished off the creature, and Mirko took advantage of that brief respite to rush at the boy and do as he had asked her. How did he even fight against this creature and damage it so terribly before I arrived? She absent-mindedly asked herself when she finally took notice of the huge amount of blood staining the ground, in all the places devoid of craters.